Hey guys, Spartan here, and I know I said I wouldn't do another video on Butcher's Circus, but this isn't really a video on the game itself, this is more about balancing. So yeah, as you read by the title, what I would hope for them to do if they patch this game, aka what needs to be fixed, or things that need to be addressed, because, sure, this game hasn't been patched, like, in a balance-wise, ever, and it's only received patches to fix netcode, but maybe after Darkest Dungeon 2 actually launches for real out of early access, then maybe we'll get a patch for this. So I'm going to go over every hero in alphabetical order and talk about what they should probably fix or should be addressed. So let's start with Abomination. Abomination, I think, is actually pretty fine in terms of balancing. Abomination doesn't feel overly powerful in many regards. Abomination has its definite weaknesses, considering things like the Abomination only has Blight Resist as a good resistance. Like, any one trinket makes a status effect pretty much guaranteed on the Abomination, with the exception of, like, move after the Abomination has transformed. So the only thing I would really change about the Abomination is a slight buff to Beast Spile, considering it has 95 accuracy and it barely does anything. Like, every Abomination runs Wretch's Cloak as a trinket. Wretch's Cloak is genuinely a really good trinket, but I find the downside of Wretch's Cloak being the extra stress dealt. Yes, that is a downside, because it boosts the stress done that the Abomination does to itself, so it's a bit of a trade-off. While in Beast form, you actually gain extra stress. Probably should decrease this to, like, maybe less extra accuracy, considering that literally every Abomination runs it, because 10 accuracy is just that great. And plus, Transform, really powerful. Of course, the Transform downside of becoming dazed is really bad, but we'll get around to that. But yeah, the trinkets seem fairly good. Maybe buff Taste of Grandeur. Like, if they made this plus 4 accuracy and this plus 10 accuracy instead of 4, then I'd see it be good, but currently, the on-attack miss, inflict 8 stress, is really bad. I don't care if you get virtued, it's terrible. But yeah, everything else seems pretty good. Up next, we have Antiquarian. So, Antiquarian is overall a really strong unit, and I think the changes that need to be made to balance out Antiquarian are Festering Vapors. Now, Festering Vapors' biggest problem for me is that it inflicts stress. It doesn't need to inflict stress. This is a damaging move, and it's fine as a damaging move because, sure, it does a ton of damage, but it's an AoE and has only 90 accuracy. That really isn't that much, and you're going to need, like, double accuracy trinkets to reliably hit units. Like, even Leper has a 0 dodge, meaning that if you have no trinkets, you can still miss with this on a Leper, aka a unit with no dodge. So, unless you're running like Monkey's Paw, then you're going to miss a fair few of these, or if you're not running accuracy buffs. But yeah, the stress is just the cherry on top, and, you know, 32 potential stress per hit, just not including crits, it adds up over time. So just get rid of that, and Festering Vapors should be fine. The balancing act of Festering Vapors is that a lot of units do not have high Blight Resist. Like, okay, let's say, for instance, you have Materia Pestis on your Antiquarian, so 120% Blight chance, and you can do for 4 rounds. Okay, can resist rarely, cannot resist, has a decent chance to resist, has some very small chance to resist, can't resist, actually more likely to resist, actually no, it's a 50-50. Cannot resist, or can barely resist the base attack anyway. Slight resist, very slight resist, can't resist, can't resist, can't resist, can't resist, slight resist, or mid resist. Slight resist, can't resist, slight resist, can't resist, and yeah. So most units cannot resist a blighted Antiquarian, or a blight build Antiquarian. That's fine. It balances out the fact that half the units have bleed, resist, so this is more effective against them. And Rejuvenating Vapors. This should not heal 3 points for 3 rounds. This should heal like 2 points for 3 rounds. Because currently as it stands, that's 9 points per hero. So 9 times 4 is 36. So you're getting 36 points of healing for pressing this once. And if you run the Tears of the Lost, which is a great trinket anyway, it's minus stress, debuff resist, virtue chance, and restoration. No downsides on this trinket. If you run this, then that's an extra, like, 12 healing added to that. So you get 48 healing per use of this skill. That is crazy. Reducing that by 1 point would mean that you get 6 points per hero. So that goes from 36 to 24, and getting Ash around would just be, you know, blah 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 blah. It would really reel in the power of Rejuvenating Vapors. Everything else is fine. There is nothing that is incredibly powerful here. Take cover, necessary, never stab, is good with the Ghoul Claw. Maybe buff Impossible Glyph, honestly, because this just doesn't really do much. Like, yeah, debuff skill chance is nice, but is the stress dealt and accuracy really that important? Because, well, if you're removing Festering Vapor's stress, then it literally only works on Flash Powder, which is, it's alright, I guess. Nothing spectacular. It's more useful to remove stealth. Arbalist, oh boy. Probably the most unbalanced class there is in Butcher's Circus. So, let's get it right off the bat. Remove the plus 25% damage modifier on Sniper Shot. Seriously, why does it have this? It is, that is crazy. So the real issue with the Arbalist is the Arbalist's trinkets, really, and her obviously high base damage on Sniper Shot. So if you remove the 25% damage modifier on Sniper Shot, then this Arbalist cannot, like, one-shot characters with Stabilizing Tiller, Piercing Quarrel without marking. Like, if you have Piercing Quarrel, Stabilizing Tiller, you could one-shot characters, like, down from full health to Death's Door, like the Arbalist, no, not the Arbalist, the Antiquarian, the Jester, the Occultist, the Grave Robber, and I think also the Shield Breaker. But yeah, point being, Sniper Shot is incredibly overpowered, mostly because of that extra damage modifier. Like, it doesn't need to be there. Sniper Shot is already powerful enough. I think they should also reel in the base crit of the Arbalist, because that's 10 crit. That is on par with the Grave Robber and the Shield Breaker and the Occultist, who, like, kind of make up for that by being a bit lower on the damage end of things. Like, sure, 8 to 13. 8 to 15 is the high roll, and 6 to 11 is the lower roll. Now, this is only 8 to 14, true, but when you consider that plus 25% damage modifier, that really makes up for it. And the fact that it gets extra damage versus marked, but that's synergy pick. Suppressing Fire. Suppressing Fire's debuff should actually be buffed so that it lasts an extra round. It currently only lasts 2 rounds, which isn't that effective. Like, you can buff this if you nerf a Sniper Shot, just make something else viable. Sniper's Mark debuff also lasts for only 2 rounds. You wouldn't know this because nobody uses this, so maybe if you buff this a little, it would be good. I mean, you are likely to hit a debuff if you equip her with the Weighted Bolus, because it's an extra 20 debuff chance, and it's extra accuracy. It's not bad. Might want to use that if you do that. Bowler is fine. Blind Fire definitely needs a buff. If you are doing a random target skill, you'd better make it so the accuracy isn't 80. Like, I get the point. You want to not make the Arbalist very effective in the front ranks, so you give him this garbage skill. But Bowler is just straight up better. It does, sure, it does less damage, but it hits 2 targets, so it's an AoE, so it's about on par, and it has high accuracy, and it moves her backwards, and it has knockback potentially against lower knockback resist units. So yeah, seriously, like, buff Blind Fire, do something. I don't know, some other buff. Maybe you should make this the move backwards one, and this one lets you stay still. That would be, I mean, people would still run Bowler probably, but Blind Fire being a more setup-based move, or help you go back, would probably be a bit better. In the original, it buffed speed, so yeah, it totally does nothing now. Battlefield Bandage, it probably doesn't need to be changed. Yeah, if you want to make the Arbalist more support-based, then just keep this, I guess. But if you don't want to change Sniper Shot, nerf this so it doesn't, like, cure bleed. Make it so that it does something else, because bleed is very prevalent in Butcher's Circus. and being able to cure bleed is incredibly powerful. Like, it shuts down the Flagellant most of the time, especially considering the fact that the Arbalest is the highest bleed-based backliner, so Reign of Sorrows is, like, Arbalest almost completely counters Flagellant in most situations. And Illuminating Flare. Now, this is the only clear stun in the game, but I think it can stay. Reason being, it kind of is needed in the game. Like, I don't think an Illuminating Flare is the issue. I think the fact that nobody else can clear stuns is the issue. So leave this as it is, but give clear stuns to other characters. Currently, though, this is fine. It means the Arbalest isn't doing something more impactful. Maybe reduce her move resist. I don't know if that would kill her. If you don't want to change Bowler as back, then remove that a little. Also, Musketeer is kind of the same, but Musketeer is actually kind of fair. I'd still remove the extra damage on aim shot and just leave her as it is, because currently she's a bit more fun than the Arbalest in terms of balancing. Maybe you should change something about this. Maybe remove the accuracy buff on ranging shot and give that the remove stun as well. You could do that. It would be viable. Also, something with quick draw, I don't know. B is for Bounty Hunter. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're talking about Finish Him. Finish Him is the most bloated skill in the game. It just does everything. It hits from the 3 front ranks, and it can hit the front 3 ranks. It has average accuracy, sure, but it has a pretty high crit mod. It does extra damage versus stunned and dazed, and has a pretty much guaranteed chance to kill anything it hits. Especially if you deck him out with a finisher, or even the Heartseeker. Sure, you may miss, but there are ways to buff accuracy and plus damage. What do I think needs to be done to finish him? Give this a heavy negative damage modifier. Like, give this minus 75% or something. Reason being, you should not have a move this flexible that is just a very solid move in general. So, 7 to 14 damage plus 60% means that this can crit for 33 damage on a stunned unit. And it is fairly easy to land stuns in Butcher's Circus. So, you take your Crusader, you stun a unit, they decide to not move that unit immediately or remove the stun, and you crit them for 33 damage. That just is not fair. The fact that it takes very minimal setup and using a good move that is already, like, you'd already use stuns in the game, so why do you need synergy for attacking stunned units? Just Finish Him just does too much. If you give it a negative damage modifier of even like 50%, then sure, you'd get a stronger attack than normal against stunned characters, yes. But you wouldn't make him so Finish Him is a very reliable source of damage regardless of the situation. Like, currently, it's just better than Collect Bounty, aside from... Okay, so Collect Bounty does extra damage versus Marked, and has 2% extra crit, at the cost of not hitting rank 3, and not having an insane amount of extra death blow chance. Mark for Death is actually fine, because, yeah, people still use this. That debuff may not land all the time, but when it does, easy to kill units, and, you know, it sets up the Arbalest. Come Hither. Come Hither is... something needs to be done about Come Hither. Maybe make the mark last only 1 round or something like that, so you can actually get rid of it very easily. Currently, it lasts for 2 rounds, which isn't that much, but considering the fact that you are getting a unit from the back rank to rank 2, or rank 3 to rank 1, which that happens a lot less, and getting a mark, it's just insane. Also, it has really good accuracy, so you're not going to miss with this mostly. The issue with Come Hither is that literally every comp needs to be based around the fact that, okay, how am I going to deal with being hit with a Come Hither? Take a look at my saved comps. So every single comp I have currently saved has a way of dealing with Come Hither. Like, these two, I can use the Grave Robber to Shadow Fade. These two, if Come Hither gets used on the Highwayman, he can Duelist advance into slot 1 so that he can't be shot by the Arbalest. This one, currently, is the weakest against it because all I can do is Holy Lance out. But at least then, I could do something like use the Occultist to stealth the Vestal, and so the Vestal could not be hit by the sniper shot afterwards. And stealth lasts 2 rounds, so she should be able to take her 2 rounds while the mark goes away. That is how much preparation you need to do around just planning your entire comp around the fact that this one fucking ability exists. It's stupid. Like, this needs to be changed somehow. But yeah, it's really, really bad for balancing when you have to think about that constantly. Uppercut is actually fine on the other end. It doesn't mark, it dazes, and sure, the Bounty Hunter has synergy with daze, so it's not a bad ability. You can use this to get rid of the Flagellant from the front rank and make it so that, you know, he has to move last. So yeah, and you can use it on a unit that's already moved to have like 7 turns in between. It's pretty good. Flashbang, on the other hand, is absolute garbage. There is nothing to say about this move. It needs to do something. Like, this should be a daze. Like, this could be a daze and a dodge debuff, and people would maybe use it, because currently the Bounty Hunter has no synergy with debuffs. So, like, you use this on the Occultist, and he's like, oh, wow, I have 70% debuff resist. How are you going to hit me? That's the cool part, you don't. Caltrops is actually fine. There is nothing wrong with Caltrops. I think this is a perfectly balanced skill. It does what it does. It's 1 use per battle. You can use it to kill units on death's door, as long as they have, like, no protection. It's a fine enough skill. And the bleed base, maybe, some people say, like, maybe increase the bleed chance by 20% so it can hit Crusader, but the fact that Crusader can resist this is just a problem with Crusader's resists in general. But yeah, Bounty Hunter and his resistances are all well and fair. Crusader. Oh boy, the Crusader, the unit that does everything, and his biggest downside from the base game has been removed, because everyone knows Crusader's biggest downside was speed. And now speed doesn't exist. So congratulations, Crusader. Alright. Biggest problem, Stunning Blow. It has only a minus 50% damage modifier, it has decent crit, so that you have 11% chance for a crit. And it's a stun. Stunning is very powerful in Butcher's Circus because it allows you to do stuff like, I don't know, set up the Bounty Hunter and just stop a unit from taking a very important action. So, by default, Stunning Blow does 5 to 8 damage. Doesn't sound like much, but everybody is going to be running Sacred Blade. This is perhaps one of the most busted trinkets in the game, just because of the fact it has no downside, it is extra damage, and it's extra stun chance. And Virtue chance may not sound like that important, but when you go up against a stress comp, there's just a 30% chance you say, fuck you, your comp doesn't work against me. I am the greatest. And that's just... it just feels horrible if you're playing a stress comp and you're getting stun locked and you try and take out the Crusader and he pulls a fast one on you, gets vigorous, drops down to death's door, heals himself, and then continues to wipe the floor with you. But yeah, that turns Stunning Blow into a much more powerful and devastating move. I'd recommend... I mean, one of the problems with Butcher's Circus is that stun locking is a thing. I think one of the changes that should be made to stuns in general is that you should get a... because, like, currently, after you get stunned, you get 50% stun resist for 1 round. What I think should happen is you get 25% stun resist for 1 round, and 25% stun chance indefinitely. Meaning until the end of the battle. So that prevents you from being stun locked. It doesn't prevent stuns from being useful. Like, instance, you have Sacred Blade, Crusader, 20% stun chance, and you're fighting another Crusader. You stun them, their stun wears off. They have 70% stun resist. You stun them again, and it succeeds. Next turn, they'll have 95% stun resist, and they'll constantly be at minimum of 70%. Meaning there is diminishing returns to using stuns, meaning that you cannot use them for the rest of the battle no matter what, because it still does good damage, with just a high chance of an upside. So, that needs to be changed. Sacred Blade, in that regard, should do something else, I don't know. Just, the fact that it just heavily buffs Stunning Blow is just, it's too good. Plus, it also works for Holy Lance, which is already a heavily damaging skill that crits constantly. I mean, 17.5 crit on a move that does upwards of, well, we say 16, but everyone's going to be running Sacred Blade, but yeah. So take that into account. Do something with Stunning Blow, I don't know, give it like maybe less accuracy or something like that. Or less damage. You don't need to have heavy damage on a stun, like compare it to the other stuns in the game. minus 75, minus 65, and they have lower bases than the Crusader, who already does heavy damage. And was there another stun? Oh yeah, Manacles, which has minus 60%. And also has less damage. Yeah, Abomination is very scrapped for his turns, but Abomination doesn't have a Sacred Blade, he has a Spike Chain. Bollock of Light, fine. Zealous Accusation is fine. Honestly, if Stunning Blow gets nerfed, people will start using Zealous Accusation, because I'm pretty sure people would then realize, hold on, Zealous Accusation is actually pretty busted. Smite could honestly use a bit of accuracy. Make this 95 accuracy and then we'll talk. It's not a bad move, it just has to complete the Stunning Blow. Relate to the Flame is fine. Holy Lance. I would make this, you have to, you can only hit the back two instead of hitting 2, 3, and 4, because it's currently a bit too flexible. It's the same accuracy, not accuracy, the same slots as a Sniper Shot, just be a little less flexible. And Inspiring Cry is actually fine as well. You can use it, it's very serviceable. F is for Flagellant, which is the next on the list. So Flagellant, very, very weird, like, Flagellant is kind of very powerful in Butcher's Circus. The biggest upside of Flagellant is, you know what, let's just talk about the one big thing with Flagellant. Gauntlet of Absolution. Reduce this to self-stress minus 5, and you probably have fixed the Flagellant already. This being a on being hit self-stress minus 10 means that stress comps pretty much either have to kill the Flagellant first, or they like usually get soloed at the end of the game by a Flagellant 1v3ing them. Do I think that one single unit should be able to destroy stress comps? No. So just come on, man, like stress minus 5, and it's still a good trinket. It still is greatly effective against stress comps, having a minus 5 stress on everything. And if you still combine that with like a bolster or something like that, then you are taking off a large chunk of stress, even if you get crit or something like that. But other than that, the Flagellant is pretty good. Endure, maybe you should make this a like 40 stress heal or something to compete with like Inspiring Tune being really good. I mean, people don't use that anyway, but maybe if you do that, then inflicting stress on yourself could be viable. Gauntlet of Absolution and such, even with 5. Like, if they're not running a stress comp and the Flagellant gets hit, well, actually, then in that case, you wouldn't really use it. But yeah, maybe give your Flagellant some stress resist on this instead of on Suffer, because why does Suffer have minus stress taken? It doesn't really make much sense. Maybe on Suffer, you should give him some prot, like 10 prot or something like that. 10, 15, maybe even 20 for 3 rounds. Because then you'd mark the Flagellant, he'd still take an arseload of damage because Arbalest exists. But yeah, it's something. Currently, all the other skills work fine. No complaints. Alright, Grave Robber. So the problem with Grave Robber is that she's just not effective at really doing anything aside from, well, she can do 2 things. She can blight units with panic darts, and she can lunge and get units down to death's door. And that's about it. So what do I think should be changed about the Grave Robber? Well, first off, lunge is a bit of a high roll move, which is kind of unhealthy to the game. So lunge, of course, does a lot of damage, and if you roll that crit, which isn't that unlikely, then you can just be destroyed on turn 1 by a lucky lunge. I mean, 110 accuracy also is not a good chance to miss, even on turn 1. So you can just be doing, you know, fine, la la da. Occultist is in slot 3 because that's where he goes, and, you know, gets hit with a crit lunge and takes away like 80% of his HP, and gets followed up by like, I don't know, something else. So maybe remove a bit of the damage on this skill, but as a trade-off, like, you could make this a, I don't know, 10% damage modifier, but you could give like a strong debuff of minus heals received, because that would be pretty, I don't know, not flavorful. But this would be a way to make it so that lunge is more than a move that just takes a unit down to death's door. This could be a move that keeps them on death's door for a little bit, or keeps them at very low health. Like, let's say for instance Lunge had a minus 50% healing received debuff. You could in theory spam this by using a dance comp, which would make dance comps very effective for Grave Robber, because like just dealing heavy damage constantly isn't incredibly useful unless you can truly capitalize on it. But minus healing received would be a nice thing, because currently the only minus healing received we have in this game is the debuffs that the Flagellant inflicts on himself. Like, the Grave Robber could find a very interesting niche with Lunge that way. Other than that, Panic Darts. This should not be 4 for 4 rounds. I say this should be 4 for 3 rounds, because this move is already kind of busted enough as it is. Considering that the Grave Robber is still used every now and then, just off the fact that this has 30 stress and does 16 damage from the Blight alone, plus it does base damage and it has high crit, so 21 crit and a chance for an extra turn. Like, that's crazy. Grave Robber trinkets, everyone uses the Satchel of Dirty Tricks because it's good, and Leather Bandolier is good. I have honestly never seen anyone use the well-balanced Stiletto usefully. Like, Cloak and Dagger has use, bypasses guard while stealth and dodge while stealth. Dodge while stealth is important because it means you can dodge Rallying Flare and Flash Powder to de-stealth you. Damage melee skills is obviously meant for a Lunge build. But yeah. Well-balanced Stiletto, it just doesn't do anything. The buff that you get lasts effectively 1 round. So you get a extra damage, and then after using a melee skill, you get a buff to, like, the damage and crit of range skills. And after using a range skill, you get accuracy and death blow. The problem is that the best time for the Grey Robber to use a good play is after Shadow Fade, which is neither of them. It's a buff. It's a self-buff. So well-balanced Stiletto in that case does, like, extra 10% damage. It's not good enough. Toxin Trickery is actually good enough, though. Like, yeah, it's just a big dodge buff, which, I mean, that's what the Grave Robber does. You dodge. We have 3 units with the letter H at the start. That's Hellion. Sorry for the jump cut there. So, Hellion. Biggest problem with Hellion. She has garbage resists on everything except stun and debuff. So, move resist. She's a unit that pretty much always has to be in the front. The only move she can use in slot 4 is Breakthrough and Adrenaline Rush, but that's a buff that doesn't actually, like, advance the fight. Like, her only use in slot 3 is that said buff, Breakthrough if it bleeds. Like, this is kind of a meme combo I was building with this before. But, I mean, just look at the accuracy of if it bleeds. That's 80 accuracy. For reference, the Leper's Chop has 80 accuracy. Like, you're giving Leper stats to a damage over time, like, ability that doesn't do fantastic damage. Sure, it has range, it can hit 2 and 3. So that means that you're safe from this move in slot 1. Like, why? Why would you do this? Bleed Out as well. Like, Bleed Out is actually fairly good if it lands. But the issue with Bleed Out is, once again, 80 accuracy. Like, they are expecting you to run Razor Pin if you want to do, like, anything with the Hellion. Like, 10 accuracy, yeah. It allows you to get up to 100 with the base move, but ugh. There's a reason people only use either Breakthrough plus Hemlock to apply Blight to teams, or they use, like, Terrifying Yorp for minus accuracy, because they actually have better than 80 accuracy. And yes, Adrenaline Rush is a self-heal that buffs and gives accuracy, clears debuffs, stuff like that. But the problem is it has 4 uses per battle. Like, you cannot use this forever. And plus, of course, the Hellion dazes herself whenever she does fucking anything. And by fucking anything, I mean these 2 moves, but they are Hellion's best move. I mean, that's a total of 150% damage. So, yeah, 12% crit as well, so that's very nice. But yeah, Iron Swan, way too situational. Sure, it hits the Arbalist, but that's about it. Hellion is just way too easy to displace. Buff her move resist up to like 50 or something, and then we'll talk. Highwayman. Highwayman is an interesting case because, honestly, Highwayman doesn't need to be changed. I think Highwayman is the gold standard of what a class should be like in Butcher's Circus. He can do good damage, and, well, that's sure is his only role. Grape Shot Blast is a viable stress-dealing thing. Sure, it only has 80 accuracy, but the trade-off is two things. Vendetta is an accuracy buff, damage buff, and crit buff, and ignores stealth, of course. For the whole fight, it debuffs dodge, so if, let's say for instance, you're fighting a shield breaker. So you're fighting a shield breaker's like, haha, I have like a 50 dodge from my personal trinket and a monkey's paw combined. So you're like, okay, so I'm using Grape Shot Blast. I'm going to Vendetta with my 130% debuff base on this shield breaker. So she's going from 50 to 30, which is, first off, it's absolutely fantastic for your team. Cannot resist the debuff. And then I maybe start throwing Grape Shots. That's, sure, it's only 90 accuracy by default before trinkets. So 90 plays 30, that's a 60% hit rate. But the thing is that on crit, the Highwayman gains accuracy as his buff because speed doesn't exist. So that puts Grape Shot up to 100% accuracy, or 100 accuracy, depending on how you look at it. So there is a great chance of this hitting everything that does not have a dodge buff. Like, let's see. You can't miss, except you're going to run bolster. Can't miss, slight miss, can't miss, can't. I mean, can. But yeah, Grape Shot Blast is not bad, and plus, it's effectively 45 stress, and can crit. Sure, -5 crit mod, but +8 crit mod on Vendetta, which some people don't run this, and I think they're loonies. Now, I'd like to compare the previous Hellion Bleed abilities. Like, let's take if it bleeds. 80 accuracy, -35 damage mod, 4 crit, 100% bleed, 4.3 rounds. Compare that to Open Vein, which can't hit rank 3, but can hit rank 1. 100 accuracy, -15 damage mod. Sure, Highwayman's got a little less damage, but still +4 crit. Then 100% 4 bleed for 3 rounds. And the Highwayman's Parrying Dagger Trinket gives more bleed skill chance than the Hellion's one. It gives a little less accuracy, but that's fine when it has by default 20 accuracy more. And it gives extra damage melee skills. And that's aside from the extra riposte, so it does more than just buff this one move. Like, it's crazy. Duelist Advance also gets some pretty good value. Point blank shot, very powerful. Knockback, and death blow dealt. I'd say pistol shot is the only move that never really gets used. I don't know. This should be a little higher accuracy, probably, because it is, like, gun. But, yeah, it's serviceable, I guess. Highwayman also has some pretty good all-round resistances, meaning that if you put anything on him that buffs a resistance, there's a good chance that he'll be able to resist it, except for maybe stun, but that's just because stun is problematic in this game. Next up, Houndmaster. Let's talk about the Houndmaster's elephant in the room move, Hound's Harry. So Hound's Harry has some also pretty bad accuracy, but the trade-off is that, well, first off, he has Attack Whistle, which is 12 accuracy, 20 bleed skill chance, which is insane. But also, this is a 110% bleed. So combine that with the Attack Whistle, and okay, any unit that has 30% bleed resist or under cannot resist. So cannot resist, cannot, can slightly, cannot, can slightly, cannot, decent chance to because it's Crusader. Cannot, can slightly, cannot, can slightly, cannot. So most units in the game cannot resist a Hound's Harry Attack Whistle combo. Then, on top of the 6 points per hero it does, it inflicts 12 stress on everyone. Why? That is a crazy amount of stress. That is bellow stress, and this can crit. So, alongside the damage it deals, like, people say Festering Vapors is powerful. This is a lot stronger, considering that it has more support than just, you know, running 2 trinkets just to be able to hit and land your status effect. Like, oh man, come on. Like, this is 9 crit, and this is only 7 crit. Yes. but the trade-off is that if you crit with this, only the Crusader can resist you in terms of bleed. So that's crazy. Hound's Rush is fine, honestly. Target Whistle's still very powerful. The trade-off is, most of the time, the unit you're attacking, a unit with protection with, is the Arbalist or the Musketeer, and they can ignore protection anyway with their Trinket. Probably should fix that to be only a 10% prop reduction, you know, just what I'm saying. Cry Havoc is good, it's useful. 12% chance isn't likely, so it's good. Guard Dog, useful. Dodge Tank, plus good Trinket support. Lick Wounds, it's good. Healing over time, plus normal heal. This is effectively 17 points of healing. Sure, you only get 2 uses, but you get off Death's Door immediately and get regen. Blackjack is a stun. It's not really problematic because it requires the Houndmaster to be in the front 2 slots. And if he's in the front 2 slots, well, he just generally doesn't want to be there. Like, he's only 1 slot away from the front, in which case he cannot heal himself or Cry Havoc or Hound's Rush, so he's forced to Hound's Harry or stun, or like Mark, Guard Dog. You're not going to be doing that. But yeah, Houndmaster, other than that, one outlier that probably need to reduce the stress given to this. Or, like, okay, maybe I don't see how being mauled by a dog is that problematic in a game where you can be hit with Eldritch Tentacles and that's only like 8 stress. So yeah, maybe make this only 4 stress. That's still 12 stress total, but I mean, it's a damaging skill. Jester. So I'm probably going to get some flack for saying this, but Finale needs to go. So Finale's upside is that it kills instantly if it lands, which it will land. It has 150 accuracy. That means like barely any units can miss, or well, can dodge this. Plus he buffs his accuracy, so yeah. Jester's moves are fairly good, but Finale... Okay, let's take an instance. So Finale gets plus 40% damage when you use pretty much anything. I could have sworn Solo gave a bigger buff, but I guess I'm just imagining that. And 6 to 11 with a 17% crit rate, or extra like 25 total when you use a Battle Ballad, which everyone will. That's a crazily high chance to kill something. I believe Finale should have a negative damage modifier, much like the other skills that I mentioned have. Just because it stops you from being able to Finale a unit in like the first 2 rounds from very high amounts of health. Like, with a crit, this is potentially the most high-rolling... Actually, no, this is the most high-rolling ability in the game. So I'd recommend either making it so that this doesn't crit, or something like that. No, ignore that. Definitely just give this a negative damage modifier of like, I don't know, give this negative damage modifier 80%. So what that means is that you need to stack 2 buffs before it does base damage. Because that's how these damage modifiers work, I'm pretty sure. Actually, does that work this way? I'm not sure, because it's very weird how this works. I don't know if this is a case where, like how Finish Him, it adds to the base damage, so it's considered a baseline 160%, or if that's taken into account after the damage modifier. I don't know. The Red Hook devs know how to work with this, but I haven't seen many moves that actually like deal with that. Either way, negative damage modifier. Mortal Wounds should probably do something else. Like, Mortal Wounds' debuff is fine, but the Jester has no debuff support. Maybe make this a higher base debuff, or something like that. I mean, sure. Yeah, Mortal Wounds is just such a weird and janky skill. It only works in the mid-ranks, and it only hits the mid-ranks. So does Harvest, but Harvest does a crazily high bleed amount. Like, compare this to if it bleeds. Yes, Hellion can be in the front rank, but Harvest does that on 2 units and has higher accuracy, and the Jester can buff his accuracy. Like, why? The Harvest needs to be toned down a little as well, probably. Make this either a shorter duration, like 4 points for 2 rounds, or 3 points for 3 rounds. Either one is fine. it's just currently a bit too strong. Like, this move is as strong as something like Hound's Harry, for reference, except this has a little more bleed chance. But Jester has good bleed support. He has the blood coin that's 20% bleed and then extra damage and accuracy versus bleeding. So you can use it in tandem with the Houndmaster dude. Yeah, taken into account. Inspiring Tune is fine, Solo is fine. Maybe reduce Jester's dodge, like, a bit. 25 is the highest in the game. It gets up to 40 with a Monkey's Paw. That is crazy high. And or reduce his debuff resist a little. Like, take some of his debuff resist and put it into, like, move resist or something like that. Like, 55 is so high that even a move meant to deal with high dodge units, Vendetta, has a 25% chance to not work. Like, that just feels really bad when your entire anti-debuff tech doesn't work on the dodgiest unit in the game because he has high debuff resist. So, like, make this 45%, move resist up to 20%. Like, he's a dancing Jester. He should be able to resist some moves. Like, Shieldbreaker has 35, she's a dancer too. L, we have Leper. Okay, so Leper's base kit is actually pretty good. You can do a lot of things very well. The downside with Leper is the fact that Leper needs to stay in the front ranks, and you cannot always build a party around him. Sure, he's got decent resistances. Leper actually has the highest total resistances in the entire Butcher's Circus, but most of that revolves around move and stun resist. Most characters don't need move resist because they have dancing abilities, but yeah. Leper's downside is that his trinkets absolutely suck. Durable Armlet is the only one that is actually, like, useful. Like, 12 accuracy is good. That's just a good stat for Leper to have, because he's a low accuracy baseline unit. HP is fine, but it's only 5 points, so it's not fantastic. Gladiator's Mask is literally just Jagged Chopper. It just is. The only use for this trinket is so you can run 2 Jagged Choppers, which no one would want to do. Invigorating Balm doesn't really do anything. It's Blight and Bleed and Death Blow Resist. Death Blow Resist doesn't matter because of finish him and stuff like that. And Leper can already buff those resistances with Stand. Like, if you wanted these resistances, you'd run Rancid Cure All. Or Treated Bandage. Like, so 20 healing received, 20 Blight and Bleed. Compared to... Where is it? Bottom. 15 of each and 30 healing received. That's very comparable. And maybe even better if you find extra healing received better. And the Sharpening Stone, which applies bleed on hit and 6 crit, but that's about it. Leper doesn't need, like, that. It's... if this were on a unit like Helene, it would actually be good, but the only AoE Leper has to abuse this is Hue, which does heavy damage on its own. Yeah, Leper needs better trinkets, so... Gladiator's Mask, make this, 10 accuracy, 15 damage, or something like that. Something that makes it actually fearful. Or maybe combine these two into, like, a... Make this a 15 damage, 6 crit, and apply bleed on hit, and, I don't know, give him a different trinket. Give him fucking something. Leper never uses his trinkets. Every Leper I've seen runs, like... Everyone runs Exotic Snuff because they can't afford him to be moved. And something like the Net, wherever it is. Yeah, the Net. So, because everyone opens with Purge. Because it gives accuracy, so it buffs him other ways. And it's a pretty good knockback, and it has 110 base accuracy. So, it's good. And it can crit for a lot of damage, because it's still Leper. Man-at-Arms, M. Now, people are going to hate me for this. I think Man-at-Arms is also kind of fine. A lot of people point at Bellow being the be-all and end-all, destroyer of worlds, stresses your entire party out. I don't think this is the thing. The reason being, it does no damage, so you are literally only getting stress and damage reduction from this. And, like, you need someone else to, like, work and actually kill the units, because sure, you can drop a full health unit to death's door, but that takes a lot of stress to do. And Man-at-Arms, while he may be, like, pretty bulky, he has very little blight resist. Like, he has the lowest blight resist in the game, 5%. His bleed resist isn't fantastic. Like, there's a good chance to land a status effect, and He has the highest stun resist in the game. It's still not fantastic though, because, you know, stuns, how they work. Stun locking is very easy, unless you put some other trinket on him. But yeah, if you focus the man-at-arms, and okay, no, let's say for instance I'm running a full straight-up damage team. If you're running a full straight-up damage team, you need to focus the man-at-arms. Do not just leave this old man alive to like debuff you. But yeah, you should find some way to remove the debuffs. Use like Rally to the Flame, or I don't know, Illuminating Flare, or some garbage like that. But just throw some dots at him. He can't do much about that. Like, Defender gives dot resist to the unit he's guarding, but not himself. Doesn't matter how much protection he has, the dot will still get him. Like, what the hell are they gonna run? They're gonna run Plague Doctor and cure his dots? No, they're not gonna do that. Nobody does that. Like, Blight is your best friend against this dude. Sure, Obelisk can cure bleed, but that should probably be addressed with how prevalent bleed is. Bolster, very good move. Maybe you should tone this down just a little. Like, I mean, I say Bolster's good because it's the only dodge that lasts for the whole fight. Maybe make this a slightly lower number. Make this like 8 dodge or something like that. It doesn't need to be overly nerfed, it just needs to be a little less powerful. Command is fine. I wish this was a battle long buff, but if it was a battle long buff, you would probably need to do something else. Like, of course, it would need to be 1 use per battle, but that's just because Battle Ballad exists and Battle Ballad is overtuned. You know what, let's go back to Jester for a second. Make Battle Ballad like, I don't know, 10 accuracy. No, not 10 accuracy, 15 accuracy. 15 is fair. Unless you're nerfing Bolster as well, in which case, yeah, make it 10 and make Bolster like 7. Yeah, make Bolster 7 dodge. Make Battle Ballad 10 accuracy. That way you cannot just rely your entire comp on just a Battle Ballad making everything hit. Because 20 dodge is a lot. But yeah, everything else is pretty fine. Crush, I wish it had some extra accuracy, or you know what, no, I wish the protection minus debuff was a bit stronger. Make this 15, because it lasts for 5 rounds, that's not bad. But the whole reason that the insignia of rank exists is that so you use this with Crush, with your debuff skill chance on Crush, so that lands, you get debuffs, and you know that's a 9 base crit. So that's 9 plus 9 total is an 18 crit. You have a good chance of buffing your entire party for 8 accuracy. That's how they want you to play Man-at-Arms, but it's just not viable. Because the Crush debuff is not strong enough. That's not enough to remove the Crusader's protection in 1 hit. Also, Man-at-Arms damage kind of sucks. Maybe give this a plus damage modifier or something. Yeah, take the 25 damage modifier of the Obelisk and put it on the Man-at-Arms. Rampart is fine. Veteran's Gauntlet is actually pretty viable if you try it out. No one will, but you can. And Retribution is strong. That's all I have to say about that. Musketeer I already talked about, so we're going to go to Occultist. LMNO. Occultist is actually pretty good. Yeah, I have no complaints with the Occultist. Weird Reconstruction can be a bit of a high roll. Vulnerability Hex is fine. Stygian Embrace is a really cool move. Demon's Pull, very strong. Gives horror. One issue with the Occultist is I'm pretty sure that the Flashbang Grimoire should be, I don't know, changed somehow. Like, I kind of feel like the extra horror duration is a bit powerful when it's like... Okay. Abyssal Artillery is 8 stress for 3 rounds. So, that is currently 24 stress per hero. So that's a total of 48 stress. So if the Flashbang Grimoire is on there, that's an extra 16. So you get up to 64 stress with one ability. That is crazy. That is like Abomination Transform. And it does damage, and it can crit, so you can get extra rounds on it. So that's a bit crazy, especially considering it buffs accuracy. I think you should give some downside to this. You should give this like plus stress received as well, because you're holding the fucking Necronomicon, man. Are you not stressed by that? Like, maybe give a plus 15% stress taken or something like that. That's a good trade-off. Everything else is fine, except Bleeding Skull. I think this debuff should be for less, like, for actually, like, a set amount of rounds instead of for battle long. Because Extra HP healed is nice. Like, you can use this on Stygian Embrace, which is cool. But currently, that debuff of minus 10% death blow resist for the entire combat fucks you over majorly. And sure, death blow resist is a myth, but it definitely will be if you use this thing. Colleague Assault is fine, it works. Synergy with Marked, I guess, if you want to do that. If you want to go ahead and spam Vulnerability Hex on the same unit, but yeah, Weakening Curse is usually better. Plague Doctor. Plague Doctor is unanimously the worst unit in Butcher's Circus for a multitude of reasons. First off, she has 5 move resist. Please, buff that. Second off, she can't use... pretty much, she really can't use anything in the front rank. She can use Emboldening Vapors and Incision, and that's it. So, what do I think should be changed about Plague Doctor? Well, first off, Incision. Make this a backwards move, so that Plague Doctor can use this to get out of the front ranks. Also, give this a bit of an accuracy buff. Make this 95 accuracy because it's a dot move. Sure, it hits for full damage and applies a bleed, but it's Plague Doctor we're talking about here. Plague Doctor... Like, if you want to focus on Plague Doctor landing incisions, you have to place her in the front rank. If you give this a back rank, then you can make it so that Plague Doctor, like, can't spam it indefinitely. And Plague Doctor's support for incision isn't good. Amputation Saw only gives accuracy when the unit is already bleeding. Like, why? It's so bad. You're gonna tell me you run Volatile Concoction and this just for incision accuracy? No. I mean, the Plague Doctor's blights are very powerful. Like, this is 30 damage on Plague Grenade, and you're most likely going to land it if you have Volatile Concoction, of course, because that puts it to 110 accuracy, 120 blight skill chance. Noxious Blast does good stress. It is comparable to the Plague Doctor darts. I mean, not the Plague Doctor, the Grave Robber darts. It's just that it's weaker and doesn't hit all ranks and does less stress. Yeah, it really isn't as good. So, if Grave Robber darts gets nerfed, then this will have its time to shine. But currently, it's a worse Plague Grenade, but hitting the front ranks is important. It's flexibility. Battlefield Medicine. Battlefield Medicine needs to get the same treatment that the Crusader Rally to the Flame got, as in it heals itself as well. So if this was a heal 3, heal self as well, then that would be good. You could make this heals not this unit, because like currently you can heal yourself as the Plague Doctor, so you get the heals and you heal yourself, but it's more effective to heal another unit. But if you take away the self-heal, give this a self-heal on self as well, it'll be good. Currently, Plague Doctor has no like healing skill buff, so maybe do something with the Hazard Mask. Instead of healing receive, give it healing skill power, because it would work with own skill. It'll be pretty useful. Emboldening Vapors is fine, no issue. Disorienting Blast. This doesn't actually do damage, so you can afford to increase its accuracy. And it is the only shuffle in the game. Actually, no, I forget. Flashbang exists. Sorry, excuse me forgetting that Flashbang exists. But you can make this better. Come on, man. Like Daze, sure, has a little Daze support with the Acrid Vial. Actually, no, that's not Daze support. Never mind. I forgot that it didn't do that. Acrid Vial's best usage for Disorienting Blast doesn't even, like, work. It gives this move skill chance. Ugh, that's bad. Yeah, Blinding Gas is actually good, though. Blinding Gas can stay. Maybe give that more accuracy as well, because Plague Doctor just needs... Plague Doctor just needs Volatile Concoction to not be dead on arrival with a low ALS accuracy. So yeah, buff move resist, buff accuracy, self-heal, backwards 1, or maybe even backwards 2. Your choice. Alright, second last. S for Shield Breaker. Alright, so Shield Breaker has the main move, Puncture, which is a guard break that pulls 2 for half damage. Now this hits anywhere from anywhere and moves forwards. If you want to do that sort of flexibility, you need to cut back on something. damage is actually fairly decent still, just because Shieldbreaker has decently high damage. This needs less than 120 accuracy, meaning that this can miss. Like, this can be 100, and even then, that's 20 accuracy. Like, what is considered high accuracy for some units, like Crusader, Stunning Blow, very high accuracy attack, very rarely misses, unless it's fighting a dodgy unit. That is 20 better than Puncture. That is one whole Battle Ballad. Like, Puncture is one Battle Ballad better than Stunning Blow. Like, get rid of 20 accuracy, and that would be a bit better. Also, why does it say 500 base for the Can't Be Guarded? Is there a resistance for that? PS is fine. It's a good ability that can hit any rank. It never feels unfair to be hit by PS. Adder's Kiss, also fairly fair because it's very situational. It has low accuracy at 85. It requires her to be in the very front rank, and it doesn't have an overly high blight skill chance. Like, it's worth it with the Shieldbreaker support, the Viper Spear Tip. Because that's basically the same as the Hellion thing, except it's blight and has more than 2 moves. Impale is good. It can chip off Death's Door. It can do stuff with the Viper Spear Tip because it has synergy. It's a damaging move. It has 30% damage. It's like Hound's Harry, except it cannot be spammed unless you want to dance a comp. But in that case, it's like building a whole comp around this ability. It's fine. Expose. Oh, one of the best skills in the base game. It is still very good. Like, there's very little downside to Expose, except the fact that Shieldbreaker has no debuff support. In the base game, she had the Obsidian Dagger. The only debuff chance she gets now is the Eerie Eye, which ignores stealth. But this ignores stealth anyway, that's like the whole point. So, Expose, I feel it could be a bit more useful if it had... You know what, I say everything should have a little more debuff chance, but that's just because heroes don't have debuff support trinkets. Like, Shieldbreaker, you could remove the Scaled Shoulder because it just doesn't do anything. It's 5 prot and 10 HP, and Deathblow resist. Like, you see the Gladiator's helmet, that's 10 prot and 5 max health. Let's do a comparison. So that's 10 prot and 35 HP. And this is 5 prot and 33 HP. Is that better? Not really. 12 Deathblow resist, Shieldbreaker dodges anyway. Like, Graceful Anklet exists for a reason, so that Shieldbreaker doesn't get hit. But yeah, Captivate, I'd say this is as dangerous as the Grave Robber Darts. It is the same blight. It has another high crit. It is a lot more situational though, and it does daze, and it has only 80 accuracy. And it's a lot worse than the darts. I'd say Captivate actually has enough downsides for it to be not that great. But at the same time, it's fair, because if you want to build around Blight, it can potentially do really good damage. That's only a minus 30 damage mod when you think about it, and it's got a high crit. And Serpent's Way. Serpent's Way should be down to only 10 dodge, because otherwise, Shieldbreaker just becomes unhittable usually. So what usually happens, Shieldbreaker runs Graceful Anklet, Monkey's Paw. This is going to put this on for an example. So that's 50 dodge, 12 accuracy. Uses Serpent Sway so she gets up to 65, maybe Bolster to get up to 75, and then you stress her out, and she goes Fearful, and she goes up to 85 dodge, and basically phases to another plane of existence where you cannot actually hit her. And even if you do hit her, you attack one of the Aegis blocks. So yeah, Shieldbreaker of very high survivability. Toning this down a little is good. Graceful Anklet, you have to take up a trinket slot for, so you can't do crazy shit like I don't know, Adder's Kiss, Impale, Captivate, Expose. You remove all your viability for those skills, so you only have Puncture, which, I mean, it goes up to 132 accuracy when you think about it. And finally, the Vestal. So Vestal is a very wonky unit. She's good for stunning and healing. She can clear horror. Like, I think Vestal would be fine if they toned down the Tome of Fury. Currently, this makes Dazzling Light a 115 accuracy, 130% stun chance move that can hit the front 3 ranks from the back 3 ranks. So you want to talk about versatility and the bounty hunters finish him. Dazzling Light is like the reverse of that. It's crazy good. And 14 stun chance, I mean not stun chance, crit chance, and stress, you know, it builds up. Stunning is of course problematic, but that's just a really high stun chance. Like, everyone I've seen on ladder runs Brass Knuckles, and that's 150% stun chance. That means, for instance, the Grave Robber cannot resist. Grave Robber Jester, they get up to 55 stun resist after being stunned, and then they just get stunned again because it's still a 95. Like, the problem is the Tome of Fury. But other than the Tome of Fury, Vestal has kind of low accuracy. I guess the trade-off is that you can use something like the Purgation Talisman, which kind of does fix up some skills. It gives Illumination the dodge debuff chance, Hand of Light. It synergizes with the damage dealt from Mace Bash. Like, this needs the stun dazed chance, and this should have the... Actually, this already has debuff skill chance, but this should do something else. This should give damage. If this dealt damage instead of stun chance, if this was 30 damage, then Judgment Vestal would be more than just a meme. Like, damage range skills. Because currently every range skill has a negative damage modifier, like minus 25, minus 75, minus 30, minus 75. Yeah, be pretty good. Like, switch, give this the daze stun chance instead of the debuff chance, and replace the stun daze chance with 30% damage dealt, and that would be fun. Gleaming Breastplate is fine. But yeah, that's about it. That's my thoughts on every single hero and what should be changed for the next meta, if there is one, which there probably won't. So basically, this entire video meant absolutely nothing. I hope you learned nothing, and yeah, stay positive that maybe this gets updated. It won't, but you can stay positive.